Did you know that before she ever starred in a film, Sheedy was a published author? She starred in The Breakfast Club, St. Elmo's Fire, Short Circuit, and War Games, and for a few years she was everywhere. She was a member of Hollywood's most well-known youthful group, the so-called Brat Pack. We're looking more closely at her path in this video. She went from being a gifted writer and a bright youngster in New York to becoming a teen film icon, and then quietly reinventing herself out of the limelight of Hollywood. What then became of Sheedy? Let's go dark together. On June 13, 1962, Sheedy was born in New York City. Her father, John Sheedy, was an advertising executive, and her mother, Charlotte Baum, was a writer and press agent who worked in journalism and television. Was still a little child when her parents split, and she and her two siblings were primarily reared by their mother on Manhattan's Upper West Side, in the midst of the creative chaos of the 1970s. She was an inquisitive child. She studied with the American Ballet Theater and dreamed of a career on stage since she was a young child, since she loved ballet. But she was writing even before she stepped in front of the camera. Her children's book, She Was Nice to Mice, was released when she was just 12 years old. It was a minor hit, and even got her an appearance on The Tonight Show. For a preteen with lofty goals, not bad. Sheedy's interests changed from dancing to acting as she entered her adolescence. After attending Columbia Grammar and Prep School, she started acting in local theatrical plays and soon became well known for her expressive, organic approach. She continued to perform on the side after graduating, juggling student film projects, classes, and auditions while majoring in English at Columbia University. Was beginning to gain recognition in the New York theatrical scene by the early 1980s, and he quickly started getting tiny TV roles and guest appearances on programs like Hill Street Blues and St. Elsewhere. She obviously possessed the unadulterated vitality that would eventually establish her as one of the distinguishing characteristics of a generation. Sheedy's breakthrough year in 1983 began with one of her most challenging assignments. She portrayed J.C., the devoted girlfriend of Sean Penn's unstable, delinquent Mick O'Brien in the March 1983 film Bad Boys. Her following light comedy were a far cry from the film's raw, brutal content. It demonstrated that Sheedy could compete with a formidable performer such as Penn. She entirely changed her focus to War Games a few months later. Working along with Matthew Broderick, who portrayed Jennifer Mack, the next-door girl who becomes entangled in a computer problem during the Cold War that nearly starts World War III. War Games, a smash hit and one of the decade's pivotal pictures, was the ideal fusion of high-tech paranoia and adolescent excitement. The plot was anchored by Sheedy's inherent kindness, which also made her instantly familiar to a worldwide audience. Sheedy had emerged with two distinct performances in the same year, one light and charming, and the other gritty and dark. After receiving notice from Hollywood, she joined the so-called Brat Pack within a year, making her debut at Oxford Blues and then The Breakfast Club shortly after. By 1985, Sheedy was a part of the Brat Pack, a larger cultural phenomenon that would come to define youth cinema in the 1980s. A close-knit group of young performers, including Sheedy, Judd Nelson, Emilio Estevez, Rob Lowe, Molly Ringwald, Andrew McCarthy, and Demi Moore, were given this moniker by the media. They appeared to embody a new generation of Hollywood that was intelligent, sensitive, and little rebellious. For Sheedy, a performance at the Breakfast Club that was lightning in a bottle marked the start of that era. She portrayed the basket case Allison Reynolds, quiet, reclusive, and concealed by her dark coat and hair. Additionally, Sheedy's performance lends the movie its spirit, even when the louder characters may steal the show. One of the most poignant moments in John Hughes' career is undoubtedly that final moment of connection and that tiny smile. By appealing to a generation's sense of bewilderment and alienation, The Breakfast Club became a worldwide sensation despite costing hardly $1 million to create. It made Sheedy instantly recognizable. The teen star of The Intelligent Person, Joel Schumacher's St. Elmo's Fire, which came out later that year, forced the Brat Pack into a more mature realm. Leslie Hunter, played by Sheedy, was the reasonable, grounded center of a group of new college graduates who were attempting to decide what to do next. St. Elmo's Fire addressed the difficult journey into maturity, employment, relationships, and compromise, while The Breakfast Club focused on capturing adolescence. Sheedy's personality is torn between independence and loyalty. Despite not being a universal favorite among reviewers, St. Elmo's Fire was a box office success because of its polished visuals, pop song montages, and glossy 80s exuberance. Sheedy was at the heart of both, and for many admirers, it became the next chapter of The Breakfast Club. She was among Hollywood's most recognizable actresses by the end of 1985. Some of her contemporaries could not match her intelligence, relatability, and authenticity. However, the Brat Pack, the same label that had given her a boost, was on the verge of turning into a creative trap that would follow her into the next phase of her career. If this journey back to the Brat Pack period is enjoyable to you, please hit the like button and subscribe for weekly more in-depth analyses like this one. The music to Footloose, Ghostbusters, and other futuristic films were amazing. The Breakfast Club and St. Elmo's Fire were no different. Following consecutive successes with St. Elmo's Fire and The Breakfast Club, Sheedy found herself among Hollywood's most lucrative young actresses. She also ventured into lighter, more popular ground, like many of her bad counterparts, with family-friendly pictures that dominated movie theaters in the mid-1980s. She starred in the 1986 sci-fi comedy Short Circuit, which told the story of a military robot with sentience that becomes emotional after being struck by lightning. It may sound absurd, but because of Sheedy's warmth and likability on film, it was a lot of fun. Her ability to portray real wonder without sarcasm and her chemistry with Steve Guttenberg contributed to the film's success. She became a well-known figure among moviegoers outside of the bag bubble after Short Circuit became a huge blockbuster, earning over $40 million in the U.S. alone. With Sheedy at its core, the film's blend of humor, heart, and effects was quintessential mid-80s comfort viewing. Made to Order, a fantasy comedy about a pampered socialite who is forced to become a maid in order to gain humility, debuted the next year. Sheedy's willingness to embark on unconventional character-driven projects was demonstrated by the fact that he didn't achieve the same box office success as Short Circuit. Although there were undoubtedly problems with the movie, she gave a continuously captivating performance that was distinctively her own, combining charm, humor, and honesty. Sheedy had accomplished something uncommon by now. She had demonstrated her ability to carry a movie, transition between genres, and compete with anyone. The types of roles being created for women her age had evolved along with Hollywood. Sheedy, who had always selected roles with depth and intelligence, found it aggravating that the business appeared unclear of what to do with her after labeling her a Brat Pack actor. She was also dealing with personal issues behind the scenes. Early fame's pressures and continual attention started to wear them down. In subsequent years, Sheedy has been candid about her struggles with addiction and bulimia, which were taboo subjects in the 1980s. It was a time of self-doubt and fatigue, and the burden of it all caught up with her, especially since she had been working nonstop since her teens. She took a break from Hollywood to concentrate on getting better and re-establishing her identity outside of the business. Despite the tabloid hype, she also broke up with Bon Jovi guitarist Richie Sambora around this time, which looked to be a turning point in their relationship. Sheedy did not disappear, even in these more subdued years. She performed in theaters, worked on indie films, and made appearances on television shows, selecting artistic venues that felt less commercial and more genuine. And when she made a great comeback at the end of the decade, it wasn't with another popular song, but rather with something much bolder and much more intimate. Most people had given up on Sheedy making a return by the late 1990s. Sheedy wasn't done, even though the Brat Pack period had long since faded into nostalgia and his peers had moved out of the spotlight. People's perceptions of her were drastically altered in 1998 when she starred in a small independent film called High Art, which was written and directed by Lisa Kolodenko. She portrayed Lucy Berliner, a renowned photographer who was numbed by addiction and artistic burnout and lived in seclusion. That was precisely the aim of the intricate, private performance, which felt quite different from the vibrant intensity of her work from the 1980s. She then stated that it was just me and the work, with no studio pressure or image to uphold. From day one, Sheedy poured herself into the park, according to director Lisa Kolodenko. She claimed to be brave. I believe she recognized much of herself in Lucy, the fragility, the struggle, and the inventiveness. It worked so effectively because it was devoid of conceit. Years later, Sheedy responded to a question about the movie by saying, Lucy was the closest I've ever come to putting my real self on screen. I felt seen for the first time after everything I had experienced. High Art was more than just a new chapter in her life. It was healing, closure, and evidence that she remained one of the most honest performers of her generation. Sheedy didn't pursue another wave of fame after High Art. She had already proven herself to herself as well as to Hollywood. Rather, she turned her attention to more significant work, both on and off the screen. Sheedy mentored new actors who reminded her of her beginnings while teaching acting at the City College of New York in the next years. As one former student put it, "She never talks about being famous, you only find that out later." She has been regarded by pupils as gentle, perceptive, and surprisingly self-effacing. Everyone in the room is treated as a partner by her. In addition to teaching, she subtly made a comeback to the stage by appearing in off-Broadway and regional theater shows. She cherished the theater's instantaneity, the interaction with an in-person audience, and the feeling of discovery that came with every show. In the 2000s, she returned to the public thanks to television, particularly her recurring role as the enigmatic Mr. Young on Sight. Fans adored this darkly humorous and self-aware segment. I answered, "Perfect," in response to Sheedy's jest that the role was essentially a charming sociopath. Since the 1980s, I have been getting ready for this. James Roday and Steve Franks, the show's producers, commended her for playing against the grain. "She came in and elevated those episodes completely," Roday remarked. "She was all the things you want when you bring in a legendary person: humorous, frightening, and unpredictable." She has continued to participate in smaller motion pictures and theatrical productions over the years, frequently tackling issues that are obviously important to her heart, such as identity, healing, or art. She appears to be happy living a quiet life in New York these days, teaching, performing occasionally, and only doing work that she finds fulfilling. Sheedy's personal life has been just as subtly captivating as her filmography. Her only child, Beckett Lansbury, was born a few years after she married actor David Lansbury in 1992. Lansbury was the nephew of the renowned Angela Lansbury. In the 2010s, and David discreetly split up after more than 20 years of dating. She now appears to be happy living largely alone in New York City, leading a purposeful, tranquil existence that prioritizes teaching, creativity, and fulfilling employment over celebrity. She still performs on occasion, but only when the ideal project presents itself. She played the lead's mother in the critically praised freeform series Single Drunk Female in 2022, a part that reflected her own maturity and quiet power. She most recently appeared in the 2024 documentary Brats, which revisited her experience with that renowned group of actresses from the 1980s and frankly examined the true meaning of the term. Regarding her legacy, Sheedy is still regarded as one of the 1980s most emotionally stable actresses. Her roles in films like Elmo's Fire and High Art and The Breakfast Clubs went beyond the time and continue to have an impact. She continues to mentor a new generation of actors by teaching acting at the City College of New York. In addition to her acting career, she has contributed to changing the conversation regarding typecasting, rising stars discovering their voices, and what it means to reinvent oneself. "I've lived the dream that everyone believes they desire, and now all I want to do is make meaningful things," she said. We appreciate you viewing this video. Please like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment letting me know who you would like to see next if you liked it. As always, I'm forward to see everyone at the next one.